Now on BBC Two, a One Foot in the Past special, just waiting to take you away.
Hi, well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the city of Liverpool.
Somewhere where John and Paul actually used to go and write the first Beatles songs. It's been going to be taken over and looked after like that and restored to the way it was. It's just fantastic.
I think it's great because Paul's my favourite, and you can sort of like picture yourself going in the 60s and 50s, like as Paul's girlfriend and all.
Great. I'd like them to buy a set of 4 as soon as they can. As soon as the others come free, they should buy them all.
To go inside and see where Paul lived with his family and to see the place where some of the best songs in pop history were written, it's just going to be amazing.
In 1995, the National Trust, preservers of the nation's great country houses and estates, surprised everybody and bought a tiny council house in Liverpool, number 20 Forthlin Road. But it was a house with a difference. In the 1950s, it became home to the McCartney family. In the 60s, it was to become the birthplace of the Beatles.
Forthlin Road was just a little house. That's all it was. And if you think about it, that's all it is. But out of that little house evolved something quite extraordinary.
But though 20 Forthlin Road might be the National Trust's smallest stately home, it was to be one of its toughest challenges, taking the Trust into completely unfamiliar territory. The restoration of a much altered and redecorated 1950s council house.
Well, here we are. We're in the staircase hall. When I first arrived, it gave me tremendous problems because what on earth were we going to do with this Artex, this sort of gooey icing sugar? It's all over the house. Now into the living room. This, of course, is the most important room in the whole house. This was the room which Paul and John wrote most of their, or a lot of their early songs, including They Saw Her Standing There, and I think a number of other ones. Now I'm going into the dining room. More doors we're going to have to change. This is the dining room where John and Paul rehearsed. It's small, as you can see. Interesting, nevertheless, because we think over in that corner over there, we may find some McCartney graffiti. Maybe another Beatles song, unknown song, never know. I hope so, anyhow. Beyond over there is the kitchen, which is a modern kitchen, very functional. We've got a custodian living in the house, and so it's got to be fairly comfortable for the custodian. This is Mike's room. Mike, the younger brother of Paul, he got the bigger room, I think, because he was a photographer, and he probably used it as a studio and a dark room. So he got the bigger room. This is Paul's room. Gives me really rather a funny feeling coming here, coming into this room. Small room. It's got wood chip paper on the walls. Easier than Artex, I think. We'll probably keep it very, very simple, and I think that people just enjoy being in the space, just like I am at the moment. The back of the house, smothered in UPVC windows. Why I hate them so much is that they have huge glass panes with this very white sort of plastic around them. But compare them with the originals over there on that house, which, you know, have nice glazing bars, good proportions, and are well-made timber windows. They look so much nicer. So I'm glad they're going. The most exciting thing is the drain pipe, and there's a very famous photograph by Mike McCartney of Paul halfway up. We reckon that we ought to make sure it is totally protected as the original feature of the house, and we have had to sort of wire it up specially with an alarm system to make sure it isn't nicked. And what I found here was the original McCartney loo chain, which I was rather worried might get nicked, so I'm keeping it safely.
The idea for the National Trust to buy 24th Lynn Road came from an unexpected source. It was the brainwave of a Liverpool contemporary of Paul McCartney's and himself a lifelong Beatles fan.
To go into the room where the music was composed, this tiny little room, gave me a shiver. I thought this was a sort of tabernacle of popular culture, of modern music. This is where it all started. We've protected very well the important architecture and interiors of previous centuries. We've got to do that for the 20th century as well. And I think this is a very imaginative way of doing it.
My normal work is dealing with perhaps slightly grander houses than this. Might be trying to rearrange a picture hang or choosing 18th century colours, might be organising the conservation of furniture, but absolutely nothing quite like the Council House in Liverpool. And I wasn't particularly trendy when I was very young. I think I was fairly middle of the road, so the chance of being involved with a bit of pop culture is really thrilling, and it's totally out of my normal sort of way of life, as you can imagine. Well, this is an exciting moment. Brown's about to start the first major structural work. He's already started. We're getting rid of this boarding, and what are we going to find?
Over 30 years before, the McCartneys had put a fashionable brick-style wallpaper on this wall, seen behind Paul in a photograph of the time. Would the paper have survived?
Ah, there is paper? Gosh, is it the right one? Well, it's not brick.
No, there's always brick.
It's not brick, is it? What is it? What is it? What is it?
This wall was done by Kay Jones, 10th of September 1971.
Oh, bother. It's not wonderful McCartney graffiti.
The Joneses had moved in at the height of Beatlemania, after the McCartneys moved out in 1964.
When they told me who lived here, it was a bit daunting at first, you know, never realising the fans were so fanatical. They used to come every day and knock on the door, and if I felt sorry for them, I used to let them in, give them a cup of tea.
I'm just starting to send out the press releases for our search for original windows, doors and the fireplace as well. So just keeping my fingers crossed that we get a good response to it.
Artex, that really is a challenge. I've never come across Artex. Actually, I don't think in any National Trust house before.
Artex is a form of plaster. The DIY people use it a lot. You put the Artex on the wall and you make different designs, and it's one of the worst to get off, and that is a horrible job. Horrible. Really hard, and I wish I didn't have to do it.
This is another marvellous moment. Doors being returned. You would never believe it. I bought these from a bloke in Chorley. He rang me up just after we announced that we got the house, and he said, I've got the doors from Paul McCartney's house, do you want them? I didn't actually believe him, but you know, he then sent me a few sort of photographs of them and said that he had in fact bought them from Mrs. Jones. So I said, right, great, you're on, you know, and we agreed a price. And look, up here, you know, we've got original coat hook, original knobs, scutcheon all stuck up, and there is Brian busily putting it on.
We do not want to proceed too quickly and therefore go too deeply into a surface and perhaps miss something that may be of significance. We use scalpels to shave the top layers off, and then we gradually moisten the layers to get down to the areas that may be important. The problems posed by this house in particular are that the materials that we're dealing with are much more modern. We have much more durable adhesives which have been used to put the wall coverings on, and we've certainly got very durable paints with plasticizers in. So really we have quite a serious problem in getting through these wall coverings to the actual layer that we are interested in.
If I just quickly scrape through the orange layer, immediately come down to rather duller, paler shade, which I suspect is a sort of creamy, creamy off-white. There's an undercoat underneath this orange, and a creamy off-white. And then underneath that there's another, looks like another paint. And that looks like it's pretty well it for the paint history. We've just got two creamy paint colours lying underneath this orange. One of the earliest one would almost certainly be the Corporation Cream, which we're finding everywhere in the house as the first scheme.
We cut through the wallpaper and we began to find some lettering here. We began to get very excited about that. We thought we might be down to Paul McCartney lyrics here. But as we started to take the wallpaper back, we saw that it read, Smelly Ashley, Smelly Sheila, Smelly Keith, Smelly Buster. We're not into Paul McCartney lyrics here, we're into Mr. and Mrs. Jones family writing on the wall. What a pity.
But then a stroke of luck. Across the road, neighbours had decided to replace their windows. They might be old, but the wooden frames were still sound. But indoors, the search for lost lyrics was getting desperate.
We haven't found a thing yet. Been searching, but up to now, nothing. I'm afraid that at the moment, the past owner of the house, Mr. Jones, has made too good a job of his redecoration, which has been no good for us. I'm now stripping the toilet of wallpaper, which is our last hope, and hopefully there'll be something under there. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
He was a very keen decorator, my husband. He was... everything had to be just so stripped, sized, painted, and all papers taken off before he put a new one on. So I think a lot of things that had been on the walls before could have been taken off with the stripping of the wallpapers each time. It's a bit sorrowful for me, because a lot of memories I have in this house, a lot of happy memories I've got in the house. And it's a bit sad when I look around and say, oh, after all our hard work, you know. It was our home and it was our personality that was in the house the way we wanted it. But it is sad. It is sad.
This is the privet hedge we've grown for Forth Lynn Road. Very popular in the 1950s in council houses. The proper name is Ligustrum overfolium. I've never grown privet before for a job. It's quite a change. I normally work at big stately homes. It's not what quite I'm used to, but you know, research and that, it's history in the making, I think, and it's more in my lifetime rather than 200 or 300 years ago.
We've just put the advert for the custodian in the big issue. It's just come out today, so this is the first time I've seen the advert. Very, very pleased with it. I'm hoping for a terrific response to it. Hello, National Trust. Well, the job is very wide-ranging. I mean, it covers everything from welcoming visitors to the house to cleaning and doing the garden. OK, thanks very much. Bye-bye. The phone just hasn't stopped ringing. We've had calls internationally, nationally. Here we go. Let's see who this is. Hello, National Trust.
Meanwhile, the Trust publicity campaign was yielding results. The original kitchen sink was coming home.
So this is the McCartney Belfast sink, and we're now sort of midway putting things back. We've here got some very smart new wooden drainers, which will have to be toned down, I think. And over here we've got a very nice dresser, which has come out of a local flats, but it's exactly the same as the one which was here. And basically I think this is going to be one of the best rooms in the house. I think one of the most evocative rooms.
This colour cream, I mean, it was in everybody's house. Everybody had it. That's those people who lived in corporation houses. There was no variation. You either had cream, green, or probably a magnolia, and that was it. And it was house after house, street after street. It went on right through the estate. You did get a bit fed up using the one or two colours, three colours, but that's the way it was in the 50s and 60s.
The interviews for a custodian were down to the last two, but how would they react to the house and the idea of living there?
No smoking, no pets, ensuring that the rooms are in a clean and presentable state to the public. Also that we don't want sort of wild parties and loud music going on there every night.
Thank you. Well, if you get the job, this is where you're going to be living. When visitors come into this room, this is where you would actually give them an introductory talk, tell them a little bit of history about the house.
I even met Paul McCartney once, so
Did you?
I can tell them about that.
You certainly can, yes.
I think also you're not looking for somebody for whom the Beatles is such a passion that will overwhelm doing the job.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want somebody who thinks that this is their way into meeting the Beatles or anything like that.
Well, this is your room. This is your private space. Nobody can come in here, the public can't come in here. What do you think?
It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be, to be honest. It's big for a bedroom, isn't it?
I thought it would be a small room, you know what? It's very nice.
Yeah.
I can just see me in bed there.
Here, it's not a question of just merely living over the shop like in most National Trust properties when you're residential. They'll be very much living in the shop because they're private space, but we will be on the first floor in the building. And although that may sound okay at the beginning, eventually that claustrophobia might pall in the end, and I think candidates have got to be aware of that.
Well, let me give you a peek at Paul McCartney's room. This is his bedroom. Would you like to come in here?
I can't believe I'm here. You know, I've heard so much about the place and, you know, read about it, and to think that he actually lived in this room, you know, it's so tiny, you know, but it's magic. Just to be here, you know, is a thrill of a lifetime for me.
It's a pretty incredible feeling just to be here where he grew up and started composing his music, and he used to lie in bed somewhere in here, I don't know where it was, sort of night after night, thinking and dreaming, and songs going through his head that they later used, you know, and in the Beatles music. It's an incredible feeling.
Mike McCartney's photographs now provided vital restoration clues for the Trust. But would the brick and Chinese-style wallpapers still exist today?
Most papers for the popular market tend not to survive. People strip them off, chuck them in the bin. People don't regard them very highly once they've served their purpose. So it's very, very difficult to find anything that was produced in the post-war period for smaller scale domestic interiors.
How have you been getting on?
I've looked through hundreds of papers, many, many books, and it's a bit like looking for a needle in a haystack, really.
Oh.
Certainly in terms of the stonework paper, I've come up with a few.
Well, there's a whole book full here.
Yeah.
Lots of papers.
The difficulty is, I think, that none of them are exactly what you're looking for.
They're not, are they? We've got a problem, actually, because we've not only got the stone wallpaper to find, we've got the Chinese paper.
Well, here's one Chinesey type
Well, that's not right.
It's not right, and again, it's one of the very few that I've come across in the collection. It really isn't suitable for you. There's another one here, but again, you see, I think this is a leftover from the 1930s. It's heavily embossed. It's not the kind of thing that you're looking for.
No. So I've got a problem. What on earth am I going to do? This afternoon, we're going to go whizzing up the motorways and have a look at a couple of warehouses which contain huge quantities of items of the 1950s. Kevin, where have you brought me? Extraordinary place.
I thought you'd like this place. Just about got everything.
Telling me, well, we're in the lighting department, so with a bit of luck, there might be something here which is suitable.
Yeah.
That's sort of repro, I suppose, isn't it? Rather sort of modern looking.
Tart's boudoir.
Tart's boudoir, not quite appropriate.
No. Now that
It's quite nice.
I like.
You like that one?
Yeah.
And it's quite sort of neutral and not too over the top, is it?
Yeah, and it would go with this one.
That's quite pretty. That is quite pretty. But they're not going to be very expensive anyhow, we're going to find out.
Okay.
Ah, telephones. We've got to get a telephone. Look at that! Look at that! Ridiculous. But these are real, proper, genuine ones.
Yes.
That's actually sort of 60s, isn't it?
Too late.
That's about right, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's really nice. I think that'll do. What a way to shop.
That's stunning, isn't it?
You'll never believe it. I got these from our chimney sweep at home, who rolled up, produced a huge quantity of these runners. I thought they were going to be absolutely perfect. Sofa looks good.
Yeah, I think it's going to work well with the runners.
Looks really good there.
Yeah.
And here we've got the telly, which I'm delighted with. Two very kind people in Liverpool gave it to us. They had bought it, you wouldn't believe it, in Brian Epstein's first shop in Everton. And so I think it's rather appropriate here, don't you?
Definitely, nice touch.
Yeah. So we're doing all right. What have you found?
Well, I've come up with some nice 1950s crockery.
That's absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and a sort of lovely mirror.
That's jolly nice.
Very pretty, isn't it?
Yes. And two radios. I'm slightly concerned about the radios because they're such sort of strong images, and we mustn't be too cliched. Anyhow, let's think about those.
Okay.
We don't actually want to sort of be too much like a theme park, so we've got to be quite careful.
Yeah.
Well, we have finally found a wallpaper which is the right sort of thing. It's quite a good Chinese paper. I think it will evoke the period extremely well, and maybe we'll find a better paper in years to come.
The Trust had made its choice. Now, at last, the day had arrived for the new custodian to move in.
I couldn't believe it. It was like somebody saying, you've won the lottery, you know. It was just unbelievable, you know. I never thought for 1 minute I would get the job, you know, and I've got it. What am I doing here, moving into this house? I mean, I've been totally ignored for 50 years, so it's a big change, but it doesn't seem real. I was a bit concerned at first what my wife Pauline and the kids thought about it. You know, I thought, are they going to see it as a middle-aged man chasing a dream, you know, that it's just a load of rubbish, you know, but they were all very supportive, you know.
We've been spoon-fed Beatles from the minute we were born. That's all we've listened to, isn't it, from my dad? But it's been good and we're right proud of him.
But as opening day approached, not everybody was happy.
I think it's wrong that the National Trust have decided to open it to the public. We already get visitors coming here every day, a couple of times a day, quite a lot of people. And I don't think it's conducive to a small residential area. The volume of traffic now, not vehicles, I'm talking about people, is only going to get worse. I'll be honest with you, I'm thinking of moving because of it. There you go.
Wonderful curtains, Kevin.
The poshies sort of will look at the National Trust and say, what the hell are you doing behind this little two up, two down, working class house? But Mum and Dad would have been very proud that the National Trust has bought that little house for the nation. They would have been very proud of that.
After the McCartney house, what next for the Trust?
Well, people often ask whether we're going to buy lots more pop stars' houses, and there's an obvious thought that we may make a set of 4 in Liverpool, and who knows, we may. All I can say is that we're always trying to keep in touch with what people think is important today. And if one day we acquire the houses of the Spice Girls, then that's part of the National Trust's job, just as other kinds of building are. So we have an open mind.
Girls, can you do once more after count of 3? 1, 2, 3, go for it.
I'm ready for a holiday now. Had enough, yeah.
We really want to see Paul.
The best thing about today will be when everyone's gone home.
Right.
Let's read the cameras, please. Absolutely delighted. At last, the job's done.
Yeah!